Welcome to Andy's How I Did It channel. I've had many questions on swapping out the front tire for a solid tire, and today I'm going to show you the step-by-step removal all the way through my secret to installing this new tubeless tire and a tip that you'll need to get it centered on the wheel. It's important that you pick up this particular tire for your Xiaomi, GoTrax, or Hover One scooter, and I've put a link in the description below. So let's get started. It's best to use some kind of utility knife. I prefer to use this X-Acto knife here to peel off this reflective decal that's on the outside of the front wheel. Underneath that reflective decal, you'll find 4 Phillips head screws that you need to remove to get the plastic cover off that's concealing the wheel nut. You'll need to turn around and do the same thing on the other side, removing that sticker and removing those 4 screws, making sure that you keep up with them. It does appear that there's 2 spare screws under there, so not that big of a deal if you can't find one. Next, we're going to take this open-ended 18mm wrench and loosen that nut that's on the outside of the wheel. There's 1 nut on each side and they both hold the wheel into the frame. Go ahead and take those nuts off, and then for the one with the motor side, scoot the nut all the way back to the top. I showed you how to create this board in the other video that helps you change this tire out, but one of the things that you'll need to do to it is cut a slot into it so you can slide the wire out. The link to the video is here. So next up, we're going to take our tire removal tool and we'll go ahead and get it underneath the rim and start to remove at least one side of that tire, making sure that we've deflated the tire before we start. Don't forget about the nut that's around the valve stem that you need to loosen and remove completely before you can pull the tube out. Once you get that tube out, the tire should come off the wheel very easily and you'll be able to move on to the next step. Note that this is an 8.5-inch solid tubeless tire, and we're going to go ahead and put that in some water to start boiling it. We want to give this a good 10 to 15 minutes of boiling before we're able to manipulate it onto the wheel. From there, you're going to want to set that wheel down on the board and make sure that you're using some gloves. Now, take a wire tie, slide it through the holes in the tire and through that hole that you took the existing tube stem out of. Go ahead and cinch that wire tie up and scoot that tire down into position on the rim. You'll have one secure place that's going to hold the tire down. Next up, you'll take some tire spoons or whatever you have on hand, and you'll need at least 2 of them to put on each side to start working that tubeless tire down and around the rim. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this may look very difficult, but it's actually a very easy process once you get it started. Using my knee to hold one side down, I was able to use a screwdriver and pry bar to go ahead and secure that tire down on the rim. I've seen a lot of commentary about how difficult this is, and guys, it's really not all that hard. Once you heat that tire up, it's pretty soft and it can be manipulated very easily around the rim at that point. Now, one of the next things you need to do after you finish getting this on the wheel is not only clip that wire tie off and pull it out, but lay the tire back down in your device again and use a long-handled screwdriver to start centering that tire on the rim. This is very important because if you don't do this and do it while it's warm, it's going to be much more difficult to manipulate after it cools down. I've put links to all the tools you'll need in the description below. I think it's important to snag this particular tire because it has holes that allow you to center it on the rim after you use a single hole to help with the install. So next up, go ahead and slide that nut back, and you want to put these washers in place with the tab facing down and inside of the frame right next to the wheel before you start tightening that nut down. That's going to be important for orientation later, but go ahead and soft tighten both of the nuts on. You don't need to tighten them all the way down just yet. Once you get the nuts tight on both sides, then go ahead and take your 18mm wrench and cinch them down the rest of the way. Again, you only want to snug both of the nuts first and then use the wrench to fully tighten them so that you don't get the wheel out of alignment. Finally, these 2 plastic caps that we have, one of them has the wire insert for it, so make sure you're putting that one back on the correct side. Put the 4 screws back in there, tighten them back down, and go ahead and throw that decal back on the outside of the plastic cap. And then turn the scooter over. You're going to do the same thing for the other side. Put those 4 screws back in and then that plastic reflective decal back on, and you're finished with this side of the job. One other important thing to note when you're putting these tires on is that there is an orientation, and you can see that there's a V shape on the tire tread that points in a forward direction. You want to make sure that when you're installing that tire on the rim, that V-shaped tire points forward so that you get the best traction, especially out of this wheel as you use it to ride around. Now, one thing I've noticed on this, on our scooter at least, after I put this wheel on, is that the ride isn't quite as soft as what it was on a pneumatic tire. I wouldn't expect it to be exactly like that, but I now have a run flat tire on there that I never have to worry about. If you've got any questions about this install, feel free to throw them down in the comments and I'll try and get to them. If you found some value out of this, please smash that like button and hit the subscribe button if you want to get more. You can get a pair of these for around 40 bucks that fit a variety of different scooters. Check out some of these other videos if you haven't seen them yet, and thanks for watching.